All right, I haven't actually recorded the rest of the podcast yet. I'm still kind of like studying up on source material here at my desk, but I found this comment section and I'm gonna fucking scream. Okay, so this content creator tweeted something like, "Okay, fuck these period cramps got hands," usual relatable meme, and some guy in the comments comes in and says, "Oh God. Aw, it's okay, cutie. I give you head pats." Okay. And the content creator replies, kind of joking, like, "Got any ibuprofen? Haha." And the guy replies, "You could at least pretend to be grateful that I care enough to try to be nice in your comments." Bitch.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
Welcome. We're talking about e-girls, the women who make content online specifically for certain audiences. Note that I'm not using e-girl in the pejorative sense, in a mean way or in a derogatory way. It's just using the term. So, yes, we're talking about female content creators, people who present as women online, who specifically make content for generally male audiences. More specifically, we're kind of talking about women who produce NSFW content, but a lot of this kind of applies more broadly to just anyone who exists online as a woman and has any sort of male following. Because we're not really specifically talking about the women themselves, though we are, of course. We're talking a lot about their audience. Because their audience is always the more fun, air quotes, fun part of their profession. Now, I don't want to be misconstrued or misunderstood or anything like that. I'm not making like a sweeping statement on like all men who listen to content or consume content produced by women are blah, blah, blah. I'm sure there are plenty of perfectly fine, well-adjusted people who consume this content. I'm more fixated on the smaller, louder subsection of those audiences that pretty much every content creator has to look out for. I've got my own version of that, I guess, but it's not really a big problem for me the way that I've seen for women who produce content. It's always, of course, going to be the tiny group of weirdos who are the loudest and make the most racket whenever you're trying to do anything online. As with, anything in life, it's the tiny, loud minority. So that's who I'm talking about today. First, I'm going to kind of talk directly to them, kind of, and then kind of get into more of a conversation with the content creators themselves or people who are looking into becoming content creators. Note, I'm not acting as if I know everything about this topic. Go to the YouTube video version of this if you're listening to it on a podcast app and leave comments describing your own experiences with this. Correct me on things if I'm wrong. I totally do not mind that. I'd love to have input. I'd love to hear your own experiences. If you've had them, log into that alt that we all have to make these comments. Don't use your main unless you really don't mind. But yeah, I'd love to hear feedback on this because this is my experience kind of secondhand, having spoken with women who make content and who have to deal with this sort of thing day to day. Also, I'm specifically sort of catering to my kind of content, which is audio role-playing and ASMR, because that's the one I know the most about. So if you hear certain comments that are like, what are you talking about? It's because I'm specifically talking to that experience. So first off, guys, hi. Now, I already know that if you're the kind of guy I'm talking about, you've already tuned me out. Because that's what you do with any audio that anyone produces that has a guy voice appear. You put it in the comments, too. I've seen things like, sure, it's great, but I don't listen to ASMR with guys, or whatever the hell. So I'm basically preaching to a choir at this point already in the audio. Sorry, not in the audio, in the podcast. Wow, I'm really stuck in audio brain. Guys, are you okay? Are you doing all right, bud? Sport? Because some of you seem to really, really interact strangely with women online. I've seen your comments. I've seen DMs you've sent to them. I've seen the kind of hell you make for them when you don't like what they are saying or doing. It's concerning. Your father and I are very worried, and we just wanted to sit you down and maybe have sort of the talk with you. So you know that content creators aren't like your mom or your therapist or your girlfriend, right? Like they're women who produce content. They aren't there for you to like pour yourself out onto. They're not there for you to be your emotional support e-girls for the most part. I don't think I've seen any advertise themselves as such, and the ones I have seen do that generally shut it down pretty quickly once they find out what that's like once they turn on the spigot. Yeah, women online who produce content aren't there to be your person to bring up all of your personal traumas and day-to-day problems with, nor are they there to be like someone you constantly flirt with. There are NSFW content creators who kind of have like a flirty persona. And that's one thing. That's like a passive flirting, like, oh, hey, cutie, you know, that kind of thing. It's another when you just assume that every woman wants to be seriously, repeatedly flirted with. Okay. And flirting, there's a spectrum of doing that. There's kind of like them asking for a compliment on some hot art or whatever, or a hot photo, and you going, hey, you looking pretty good today, versus you stalking them. That's a different. I wouldn't classify that as flirting. I would classify that as grounds for a restraining order. I don't think that's a healthy thing to do, guys. They aren't your moms. They aren't there to tell you what a good boy you've been outside of their content. Even if their content includes stuff like that, they aren't that. They're people. They're human beings. They have feelings. They have lives. Many of them have jobs and, honestly, boyfriends or girlfriends, or just don't. They're not interested. They're not interested. They're also not interested in trauma dumping. You should probably not like spend all your time pouring all of your pains and miseries into a person who is just trying to live. Just a pro tip. Again, they have their own lives. They have their own problems to deal with. And now they have to deal with your thing. And I'll kind of talk more about this part in a little bit. But like once you've put that on them, they like have to respond because they've seen what can happen if they don't respond. Or if they respond badly the way you don't like. You're kind of putting the onus on them. And that's not really fair or cool or safe or valid or any other positive descriptor you could use. That's not good. Don't trauma dump to people online if you don't know them. And to be clear, you don't know them. Like, we'll get into parasocials in a little while too, but don't trauma dump to people who make content for you. Ever. Don't go on a tirade about how you're so depressed and how blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm sorry, I sound heartless with that, but this is what I've been made, you know? This is how I've been, you know, changed by my experiences making content. Once you hit a certain threshold of hearing these kinds of things, you tune it out. You become cold. It has burned away part of my empathy being a content creator. Not all of it. And I would not go back to my old day job. I would not give this up, but it's definitely harmed my ability to empathize with people because of the amount of people who think it's okay to just trauma dump to me. And I have it, from what I've heard, much better than most women who produce content. There are people who listen to my content who do try to trauma dump, but it's not nearly as insistent or frequent or constant as it is for women, it seems. Don't do that. They don't want to hear it. They don't need to hear it. You need to talk to a therapist or a friend or a family member for that, not the person who whispers in your ear at night to make you go to sleep. Okay? And on that note, don't confess to them either. You don't know them. You do not know them, and they do not want to hear your confession. There are some who might be even willing to be friends. Not friends, but like willing to enjoy your company with them in places like a Discord or something. They might think you're funny, you're cool, and like want to hang out in VCs and stuff. But if you confess to them, that's gone because you shouldn't do that. And that makes them very uncomfortable and scared of what you're going to do next. you hold a lot of power over these people. And that's not saying that like you own them, but in social spaces, the responsibility you push onto their shoulders whenever you confess your love to them, as people with platforms that they have to maintain, as people with content they have to make, as people with personal safety they have to be concerned with, that is incredibly concerning because this is coming out of nowhere to them. I guarantee if they have not confessed to you, and they probably shouldn't if they're a content creator, that's kind of an imbalance of power, the whole thing. If they have not done that and you confess to them, it is probably coming to them out of nowhere. They are probably thinking of you as, oh, that's that guy in my comment section, or that's that guy in my Discord, and blah, blah, blah. He's fine, whatever, I don't care. And suddenly you just come out of the woodworks with that. That is, you'll fuck up their day. You'll fuck up their week. That's terrifying. Because it's like, I didn't know that they felt this way about me. What else don't I know about how they feel about me? Like, if I couldn't even realize that they had this obsession with me enough to confess to me out of nowhere, what else are they capable of? What else are they thinking about me? It's very concerning. Here's the thing. I will give some ground and entertain the theory that you have, in fact, become enamored with this person. I don't personally believe you have. I believe you have formed a parasocial relationship with them. I think you like them. I don't think you do. But fine. We'll assume you really do have a crush on your content creator. The best thing you can do is not act on that in any way. Period. I know this sounds like backward, like toxic or something, like stuff your feelings down, but legit, stuff your feelings down. Because they involve another person who does not know anything about what you are thinking, and it is not fair to them to put this on them. That's your problem. You've got to deal with it. You've either got to learn to interact with them normally and let that part of you die, or you've got to just move on. Like, I'm sorry. There's no polite way to deal with that isn't telling you to just suck it up and swallow it down. Or, talk to a shrink. Maybe that too. Bring that up in the next meeting. Get a shrink if you don't have one, and maybe figure out why you're forming bonds with people who have never really met you or talked with you. Okay? Because again, confessions from content consumers is so unsettling and concerning for content creators. It is terrifying. It is never welcome. Because if you're just a content consumer to their content, you don't know them well enough. Don't do it. Don't confess to content creators. Don't confess to e-girls, okay? Also, them being a woman doesn't mean that they're like your dating coach or that they know about relationships. Like once you've overcome the, okay, don't confess to the content creator. If they have things like a tell on him or like a, what used to be Curious Cat, things like that where you can ask them questions, or if they just have like open DMs, do not ask them about what women like or what the ideal first date is or blah, 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 blah. That kind of tells them that the only thing that you're thinking about when you think of them is dating, is girlfriend, is in the minds of the worst of you, breeding. Like, if the only thing you ever ask women is how to get women, that kind of tells them what you're all about. You're only interested in getting women. If they have a tell on them or something, ask them like what their favorite color is, what kind of stuff they like, what's their favorite video game, how do they want to peg Leon Kennedy, stuff like that. Don't ask them what they want to do on a first date or what women like. That's also a really weird thing to ask, and it's kind of a tell as to like what kind of person you are, is if you're thinking of women as a monolith, like women, one woman could tell you everything about all women. Like that's not, no, you need to unlearn that part of your brain if you think that one woman can tell you what every single woman on earth wants. Especially don't ask them for sexual advice unless they offer it. Like everything I just said, obviously if they offer to answer those questions, that's one thing. If it's just a general tell on him or something, general DMs, don't, unless they say it's okay. Because again, all this stuff should be taken understanding that if they say something counter to what I say, obviously, then do that. But general rule of thumb, don't just treat women as a monolith where they can all answer questions on behalf of all womendom. Like, come on, guys. When it comes to interacting with women online as well, be aware that they make content for different platforms, and they make different kinds of content for different platforms. If a woman makes NSFW content for Patreon or OnlyFans or Pornhub or whatever the hell, that does not mean they want to be asked questions about it or talk about it on Twitch or YouTube. I've seen people come into Twitch streams where someone was just having fun playing a game and just spam their chat asking for, where's this video? Where's that video? Disappeared from Pornhub. Like, A, that's the kind of shit that Twitch will ban you for if you're openly discussing porn links. B, what the fuck? Are you typing that with one hand? Go away. That's not the content they're doing at the moment. They're having fun. Just because someone makes NSFW content or ASMR or whatever the hell does not mean they want to be that all the time. In the same vein, just because someone makes NSFW content doesn't mean that they're a horny fuck bunny all the time. Do you know how many NSFW content creators are all but asexual, honestly? I don't mean that in the literal sense. I mean it in the sense of just like, they're not interested in sex constantly, or even as much as like non-NSFW content creators. Like, once it becomes a job for you and you have to do it a lot, I'm not saying it loses its, it becomes undesirable, but it's like, it's nothing when you talk about it to strangers. Like, it's not a thing. They don't want to hear about what you're doing at the moment to the sound of their voice or whatever the hell you gross people say. Like, that's not what they do all the time. Like, would you talk to women IRL all the time about their sex lives and what they're like in private? Like, no. And if you do, fuck off. That's gross. That's not all of what they are, Like, that's, if you do that, you're kind of implicitly saying that's all you think of when you think of them. Like, they are only sex to you. And in terms of content, that's one thing. But in terms of them as a person, no. They are not that. They're more. They're obviously more. They're on a different platform doing something else. So don't. All right? Leave them be. If they're doing one thing, don't ask them about another. Come on. And especially just don't ask about like content stuff when someone's streaming on Twitch. Like, if they're streaming on Twitch, they probably don't want to be your tech support or your helper in locating content on another website. Like, they're doing something right now. Come on. They're busy. Also, big one, don't ask about other accounts you think you may know them from. Oftentimes, if they have multiple personas or if they've made multiple accounts, it's because they don't want one account to do all of the things that you know them for, or they want to leave behind an old account. Like, that saps the life out of you whenever someone comes in and asks you about an old account that you don't want to be associated with anymore, that you made when you were younger, that you had fun on at the time or thought you were having fun and then realized it was a mistake, or you just didn't want to do that content anymore. And someone comes in and is like, is this you? Are you this person? Are you really this person? Because then everyone else in the chat is like, what's that? And they go and search it up, and now they all want to talk about the old account that the content creator left behind for a reason. Come on, use your brain. If they're not called by a certain name or handle or username or whatever anymore, don't call them by that. Don't try to bring up old accounts or old content that's been deleted. If they've deleted content, it's gone. It wasn't yours to begin with. They made it, they produce it, they have the right to delete it if they want. Don't bother them about it. Furthermore, don't ask them questions about their real life or try to make like leading comments like, oh yeah, your accent sounds like this. Are you from here? And it's like, A, they probably aren't, because statistically, you're probably wrong. But if they are, they don't want to say that. If you have to ask, that means they haven't put the information out publicly, meaning they probably don't want to put the information out publicly. And now you've put them on the spot in front of an audience to respond to a question of where they live. Either you're doing that maliciously or you are genuinely just so that you do not know why that is not a good thing. Content creators do not and should not tell you where they're from, where they live, anything like that. That is personal safety. That should be the same for any kind of online content or any interaction online, period. No doxing, please. Especially that. Because what if you're right? And now they have to like panic and find a way to deny that. Like, no, I'm not from there. And they sound panicked. Even if they're telling the truth when they say that they're not from the place that you guessed or from whatever that you guessed, they still sound panicked because it's frightening to be asked a question like that. It's like now the content creator is thinking in their mind like, oh my God, is this person trying to figure out where I live? Do I need to be worried about them? Should I ban them? Should I have a mod ban them? Should I blah, 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 blah? Like, it's scary. Don't do that. Come on. Let people do things online without having to know everything about them. You don't need to know more information about their personal life. They make content that you enjoy. That's all you need. And the reason you won't get a lot of female content creators telling you this shit to your face, unless it's like the last post they make on Twitter or Patreon or whatever before they shut down and either stop making content entirely or make a new persona, is they kind of have to be nice to you. That needs to be like a big thing that's understood and accepted by the community. Women who make content for guys, especially the kind that caters to certain interests or romantic content or sexual content, they have to be nice to you. If they already have an audience and they were not able to build it in a way that was self-select, I'll get into that later. If they have an audience that they can't really control, they kind of have to be nice. They don't have a choice. Because if they're mean to you, what are you going to do? They are potentially relying on this for income, meaning they are potentially relying on this to stay alive. And I'll get more into that in a minute too. They have to be nice because if they aren't, you could get angry. You could get upset. You could be unpredictable. You might just leave and never come back, but you also might start a twit longer or go on a Chan site and start threads about them where everyone gets in on trying to dox you because they're all a bunch of misogynist idiots over there. But they don't know what you're going to do, so they have to be nice to you. So the response when someone says, like, why do you think this creator likes you whenever you say you're going to confess to them? Remember that from earlier? If the answer is, well, they're nice to me, buddy, you know how fast food employees and employees at stores have to be nice to you? They have to put on their customer service voice? That applies to online content creation too. Okay? Just because they are allowed to say certain, naughty things that, other people in other jobs couldn't say, doesn't mean that they're into you. That's their job. Their job is to produce ASMR content or to produce NSFW content or to produce whatever content they make. Their job is to be nice to you because you're the consumer and they have to appeal to you because you pay their rent, potentially, or you just make their content possible on whatever platform they're on by viewing it. That's not a sign that they're close to you or that they want to be your best friend. Just accept it as that's nice, and then move on. Okay? And about what I just said, for some content creators, it's about passion. It's about a genuine desire to make certain kinds of content without regard for money. Maybe they have a main job, and this is just a thing they do for fun because they enjoy it. For others, it may just be a job. They may not have like an explicit or major interest in doing what it is. Either they had it once and lost it, or they just, didn't have it and it was a way to make money. Either way is fine, is totally acceptable, understandable. Go off queen, do whatever you want. For a lot, it's kind of a mix between the two. But I think it should be understood that you probably won't know which of these is the case, if we're being honest. And you should just assume at worst that it is just a job and don't make their life harder than it is. Okay, because content creation is hard. It is hard. It costs money and time and effort. And time spent making content is, in the most cynical way to describe it, it's technically true, but also I kind of hate how it's framed, time spent not doing other things that might have been profitable or fulfilling. That's what they're giving up to make this content. Even if they enjoy the content, that is still time that could have been spent on personal interests or on money-making endeavors, okay? Especially if they do it as their full-time job. They are quite literally doing this for money. They need that to live. It's not selfish for a content creator to do something for money because money is required to stay alive. You need that for rent and for food and for basic necessity. Anyone complaining in comment sections about, why'd you have to make this paywalled? Or why'd you charge money for this? Or what, you don't need more money. I assume you are 12. I honestly, generally, I block or ban you because that's the kind of thing that someone says when they have never had to pay bills before. When they have never lived alone, away from their parents, and not been reliant on them. That's childish. Okay? I don't like the fact that we have to have money to pay rent and food. In an ideal world, that would not be required. That would be understood as basic human necessity and would not be tied to your ability to perform labor. But we don't live in that world, so we have to make concessions. And one of those concessions is whatever we do, it has to be monetizable. If you need to look at it in the most cynical, self-serving way possible for you, in order for your content creator to keep making content for you, they have to have a home. That is your rationale. That is your justification for paying them and not getting their content from illegal means. That's why. I mean, at best, you should just want to give them money because they make content that you like. Like, yeah, They make a thing you like. You received enjoyment from it. You want them to be reimbursed for the time and effort they put into the work that they made. You want to show your appreciation. So you chuck $1 or $2 at them or go to their Patreon or whatever the hell. It's so funny to me because all the people who get so mad about charging for things and who are so proud of themselves for getting things on, sketchy websites or for downloading the content of individual content creators illegally are also the ones who, like, I hate to frame it this way, but like are usually right-wing politically. Like they're the ones who are like, commie, shut the fuck up, blah, blah, blah. Capitalism's good. It's good when you make money for stuff. And then it's like, dude, they're trying to make money. They're trying to do exactly what you preach. So do it right. By the rules that you think are good, you should pay them. Additionally, women have to work hard to maintain their appearance and persona. Like, if you use a cam especially, you have to maintain your appearance. Oh my God, guys, you do not understand how much time and effort goes into videos. It can take like an hour or more to get makeup looking good the way that the creator wants it to look. Not to mention outfits, sets, lighting, camera, all of it. Even if you don't think it looks good, even if it's filmed on a webcam, there was still effort that went into that. Moreover, whether you use a cam or not, you have to maintain a certain persona online. Because if you're doing this and you're just saying like, hi, my name is first name, last name, and this is literally me making this content, I go off. But that is not something I'd recommend if you're getting into this for the first time. Generally, it helps to have a persona you can separate from at the end of the day. You can turn that off and be yourself after. But like women especially have to create a persona because normal girls, quote unquote, girls without makeup, guys, despite claiming that they want genuine women who act the way that they really are and who don't wear makeup and blah, 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 you guys don't tend to actually gravitate toward people like that when they're like that online. You really don't. I know you claim you do, but you don't. So yeah, they kind of have to create a persona for themselves to get your attention, to be a creator whose content you want to consume. They have to do that. Stop bitching about it. And stop acting as if they just flop out of bed and just go to work as if they don't have to do tons of prep work for that. They have to be something that I wouldn't say that they aren't, because it's generally like, if you're playing a persona online, it's generally got some of yourself in it. But like, there is work that goes into that. They have to be something else in order to get views on their content. Like, it's hard. Stop acting like it's easy or free. Like, it's not. There's time and money that goes into that. A lot more than most guys. I see comparisons between Twitch streamers, for people who have cams on, between guys and girls. Majority of guys do not have to care about how they look at all. You can see in the cam behind them, room's a mess, or they're a mess, or they're not very well groomed, and that's fine. Like, I'm not saying that's bad. You should be able to do that. I'm saying women should also be able to do that, and they can't. Because then they get called ugly, and they get rated with a bunch of weirdos who are like, oh, look at this ugly bitch, blah, 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 blah. Women have to do a lot more. You can say, well, they don't have to. It's like, they do have to if they want to get views and not get hate. Okay? Leave them alone. And there are guys who kind of ask questions or imply questions of like, why doesn't my creator talk to me? Why doesn't this content creator respond? Or why don't they want to do this or that with me? And it's like, at the very base level, they've probably been burned by weirdos before. They may have done that kind of thing before. They may have been more willing and open to engage with audiences before. And it didn't go well. Because there's always a couple of weirdos in that audience who will make it hell for them. Who will stalk them, dox them, just be asses to them. Content creators are protecting themselves by not constantly interacting with their audience. There are some who are able to do that, and that's fine. But it should not be expected of all content creators that they constantly want to be in contact with you. They understand that minimizing the amount of direct and unplanned interaction that they have with their fans minimizes the risk of being attacked or confronted or saying things that their audience might take the wrong way or having information scooped from them that they did not want people to find. I remember one instance, someone was able to figure out where someone lived based on a partial selfie that didn't even show their full face, but it showed part of a bus station they were waiting at and the sun at the time of day, like the particular angle of sunlight at that time of day. They were able to pinpoint which town the person lived in. That's all it took. That is why they do not constantly want to interact with you, because they know that can happen. So just take what interaction you get from the content creator, if that's something you want. Take what they give. Don't demand more. Know that they're busy making content too. That's another big thing. They're probably making a lot of the stuff that you enjoy them for. And don't overreact if they don't respond to you. It's fine. They're busy people. They have lives. Or maybe they honestly just didn't want to respond to whatever you sent them. That's fine. My close friends send me stuff sometimes that I won't respond directly to, or I'll just leave a react on or something. Like, it doesn't make them mad or angry or upset because it's just little things we send each other. Or you sent them something uncomfortable and they did not want to deal with that, which is also very valid. They are not required to respond to you. They've had to deal with enough weird guys in their lives to understand the dangers of interacting with strangers. And that kind of usefully segues into the next section, which is more directed at female content creators or people who want to become female content creators. Avoiding weird guys. You cannot avoid all kinds of bad actors. That's never going to happen. You can take steps to protect yourself. And if, to be clear, if you don't take every single step to protect yourself, I don't blame you. Like, you still don't deserve having weirdos in your life who make you uncomfortable or hurt you. Like, period. There's sort of like the maximalist approach to keeping yourself safe as a content creator. And I would say that safety is kind of a sliding scale. You may not want to do all of these things or even most of them, but it helps to do some of them. So you kind of got to figure out what you're comfortable with and what you think is going to work for you. And it may work out, it may not. Who knows? So the biggest thing for if you're going to be a content creator, especially if you make sexual content, do not reuse old accounts. Do not have any connections to your old accounts. Don't name yourself after your old accounts. Delete them if possible. You do not want a paper trail that could, one thing lead to another, link back to a Facebook with your picture on it, or link back to a deactivated account that has your address on it or something. Don't risk it. Everything from scratch. Don't reveal your address or post pictures with identifiable information or locations. Close and lock your DMs as much as possible. Like, unless that is what you want to do and you understand the risks, close your DMs until or unless you're ready to deal with that. Try to keep your broader location vague. This one's kind of weird, but like I've seen in the past, especially in Europe, I'll talk about these kinds of guys later, but like certain kinds of nationalisms can have weird interactions with you if you openly admit which country you're from in Europe. Because my understanding of the situation over there seems to be that every country has at least one other European country that they absolutely despise for some reason. And it's like a crapshoot to figure out which one that is if you're not from there. So try to keep it vague which country you're from if you can. It's not really as big of a deal in the States because like interstate conflict is mostly playful or kind of joking, but like, I don't know. In Europe, there's like a hard line. Like, it's weird to me. It's very weird to me. Don't disclose relationships. This is both for the sake of maintaining your audience and for the online safety of any partner you may have. If you are a woman and you are making content, especially sexual content, don't disclose a relationship. There may come a time when you've gotten big enough as a content creator or you feel safe enough doing so that it may become safe to do that. That would be fine. I'm not saying like you can't, obviously. I'm just saying if you're just starting out or if you've started out relatively recently and you've made no indication that you have a partner and you make sexual content or romantic content and you suddenly like let slip, oh yeah, my boyfriend, or oh, he comes on the mic while you're streaming or something. Guys are scary. At least one guy will take that as a betrayal and turn that into like a blood feud with you for daring to betray him by not telling him that you had a partner, either because he wanted to be with you or because he thinks of it as cheating somehow if you're online. Because he's got that weird misogyny where like men are supposed to own their women and not allow them online to do things. And therefore he feels like he's breaching that contract, which also probably means he wanted to be with you. So, it's basically all that. But just be aware, guys are very weird and they may come after your partner. Or they may find your partner and then find your real account somewhere else. Like, you cannot account for that. When it comes to relationships, just neither confirm nor deny, or just flat out say you don't. If you don't, then just say you don't. If you want to be more, hee-hee with it, you can neither confirm nor deny. But you should also make it clear to your audience, I think, that like you will always confirm or deny. I don't know. That may not work for you. The easiest answer is just to say, I don't have a partner. The confirm or deny is better if you're worried that it might get revealed somehow down the line. Then you don't want the angry weirdos to be like, you lied to us, blah, blah, blah. I hate having to entertain what these weirdos think of you as a content creator, because you shouldn't have to, but we have to because they could be a threat to your safety. In any sane situation, I would say fuck them. Who cares if they feel like you lied to them? Blah, blah, blah. They're little bitch babies that can deal with it. But in this case, choose your risks. Try to keep your family and everything separate from your online accounts. Family are the easiest loose ends to take advantage of when it comes to tracking someone down online. Because I guarantee, even if your brother or your sister or your cousin your age are completely safe online, I guarantee they probably have a connection to a family member who is not safe online, like a boomer something that has like their address in their username or something. It can also be helpful to understand the types of guys there are ahead of time. Because there are a few archetypes, shall we say, of guys in content creator spaces that I've noticed. Because before I was a content creator who predominantly makes M for F content, I was a content consumer of F for M content. That's kind of how I got into this through, a friend I made. And when you're in that space, when you're in those Discords or in those comment sections long enough, you start to pick up on certain patterns of types of guys. A lot. So in an effort to educate you, hopefully, if you aren't really sure about what kinds of guys I'm talking about, I've created some silly little caricatures of those guys to make it easier to understand. Note, these aren't all of the types of guys, I assume. They can kind of blend together or overlap, and there are some of these that, they're okay in, a smaller dose. There's, a sliding scale of intensity where it becomes a problem versus just, little casual things they say that aren't really as concerning, So first up, we've kind of got something we kind of touched on earlier, which is Clueless Cody. Cody doesn't understand money. Cody thinks he's owed content. Even if he's sort of nice or good offline, he either doesn't know or doesn't care what goes into content. He'll put content demands in your comments, day blah, 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 me requesting a part 2 for blah, 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 smiley face, and just constantly like that. Or what, can we get a this or can we get a that? Or why can't you put a part 2 for this in your YouTube? Or even if the part 2 of whatever he's talking about is NSFW, even if you acknowledge that's NSFW, and it's dude, they won't let me. Or, just I want to make money from it, so it's on my Patreon. Cody doesn't really understand why you can't just make all of your content free. I mean, come on. Why not? Why can't you do that? Cody probably lives with his parents or is probably a minor. Probably doesn't understand how money works. So be on the lookout for that. He can be annoying. Be real annoying. Parasocial Andy really wants to get close to you. Andy likes to join your Discord and only talks when you're there. Doesn't talk to you the same way he does with everyone else, even other women. He's very eager to get your attention, your affection, your validation, and he does not like it if he loses those things, even for a moment. He wants to be in the forefront of your mind at all times. He will be the first to find out if your DMs are open or not. You're going to get one from him. He might leave an essay for you. Andy's big on essay writing. He loves sending essays. That's all he can do. Whether it's a confession, or whether it's him talking about your content, whether it's him talking about every piece of content you put out, as if it's the next great work of art. He might dump gifts or money or things on you with the expectation of being rewarded or appreciated or shouted out. Which, again, people giving gifts and things doesn't mean that they're a problem. Like I said earlier, there can be a scale, and sometimes people just want to support you. There's a difference between giving a gift versus giving something and expecting something in return. Expecting praise, expecting content, expecting something, or holding it as a favor you now owe him. I gave you this, so why won't you do this for me? Nah, that's Parasocial Andy. But also, Parasocial Andy can be the opposite of all that. He can be absolutely devoted to hating you. Because you see, a parasocial relationship is not just one in which the person is obsessed with you in a positive way. They can also be obsessed with you in a negative way. They can track you down everything you do. They can make weird, creepy videos about you on YouTube with 5 views. They can post about you on Chan sites and rant about you and make new accounts just to follow you and join your Discord and blah, 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 blah. Watch out for those. They're uncomfortable. There's Misogynist Mike. We always love him. He will always try to one-up anything you say or do, other than content, of course, because he's not a pussy, right? He doesn't make girly content. He doesn't make content for other people. Nah, he just comments on yours. He will react to even the lightest teasing or insults or whatever from you as a woman very negatively, especially if other people laugh or go along with it. He will consistently talk about women or women's issues negatively. This can be anything from issues like abortion, issues like being able to leave the home without a man, like being able to have your own bank account. It will always be about that, about how women are bad or evil or whatever the hell. Basically, if you call him out on him following your content despite obviously hating women, he'll basically pull the "you're one of the good ones" card, you know? Like, you're fine though, because you lick my ears or make my dick hard or whatever, but the rest are all sluts, blah, 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 blah. Mike doesn't appreciate sex work, despite consuming your content if you are a sex worker, and belittles anyone who creates it or subscribes to it. He will constantly talk about, e-girls in the derogative sense, OnlyFans girls. He loves to talk about how bad they are and how gross they are. Oh, God, I can't believe they do that or belittle themselves to lower themselves to that standard to make that content. Blah, blah, blah. Or it's so easy. I could do that. It doesn't take any effort. Blah, blah, blah. Fuck Mike. And then there is, incel McSchool shooty. I mean, Blackpill Bill. Bill is depressed. He's really depressed. And he's going to make that everyone else's problem. He might dip into some weird misogyny when talking about women because, they won't sleep with him or go out with him. Generally, he's focused on just being sad and refuses to come out of that. He will try to bring down the mood of any conversation or space, intentionally or otherwise, because sometimes they do it without even realizing they're doing it, in order to make himself feel better. It's, if I can't be happy, then none of you can either. How dare you be happy when I'm bummed? And he'll refuse to accept any good faith suggestions for improving his life, which is why I don't interact with people who act like that, who come in and just say, "I'm so depressed, things are bad." I'm just like, cool. And then I go back to what I'm doing or ignore them. Not my problem. I'm sorry. I've got my own life. You've got your own life if you're a content creator. You've got your own shit to do. You are not his therapist. You are not required to deal with that. You can give him the most light, "oh, I hope you feel better," just to pay lip service to the fact that you have to put on the customer service smile whenever someone talks to you online, but you do not have to be his therapist. Good luck with that. Hope things turn out your way. If it keeps going though, ignore. Just block. Then there's the Reactionary. Just Reactionary, no cheeky name for this one. This is the ultimate combo of the worst kinds of guys. Reactionary, meaning conservative or nationalist or fascist, whatever you want to call them, kind of poli-sci 101. They're called that because they react to social progress negatively. Anytime something moves forward that makes someone's life better, they say it's bad. Anytime someone gains basic human rights or civil liberties, ew, we need to return to tradition. Bleh. If you have a meme section in your Discord, it will generally be pretty easy to figure out which guys are like this. Their favorite memes are going to be about making fun of other countries and people and cultures and genders and sexualities, whatever, and calling them lesser or degenerate. Talking about modern art being, "oh, it's so stupid and gross. It's nothing like what it used to be. And how dare these people want rights? And these blue-haired SJWs are ruining everything." He'll complain about how things used to be better in some imagined, idealized past. He has never lived in that time period, but he thinks it's better than this degenerate modern shit. This could be anything from idealizing the Roman Empire to idealizing the 1950s to idealizing the early 2000s, which is starting to come into vogue. And it's not just nostalgia for the early 2000s. To be clear, listen carefully for what they compare those time periods against and why. It's one thing to say, my favorite video games are from the 2000s. I have a personal, love for the transparent video game controllers of the 2000s, that aesthetic. I like the style. It's my childhood. That's one thing. But when they start dipping into things like people were less sensitive then, that's when you should start being like, how so? Sensitive to what exactly? Go on? Huh? That's when you want to start getting a little around them. They got a lot of dog whistles, which are things that sound innocuous that are basically only for a specific group to understand. Like a dog whistle, only a dog can hear it. These are phrases or sayings or images or whatever that can only really be understood by people who they want to understand it. It can also depend on where they're from, though. Like, lots of variation from different countries. They're generally xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, basically any and all of the phobias you can think of. All of that represents societal progress and therefore is deviation from the good old days of whenever that was. And we should return to that because that's when men were men and we beat each other over the head with rocks. It's all bullshit. It's all either proto-fascism or just overt fascism. But whatever the case, watch out for comments like that and for guys like that. I'm not saying every single one of them is a jackbooted thug yet, but it's a slippery slope. They slide toward that pretty easily if you give them the right content. Not your content, someone else's content, which is probably where they learned the kinds of things that they say is from some other YouTube video, a Ben Shapiro destroys SJW compilation, or why the West is better than blah, blah, blah. It's garbage. It's garbage. It's all garbage. Just be on the lookout for that. It's hard to deal with that kind of thing, especially if you don't have a lot of experience with like politics and online politics, especially. And I'm not saying that's necessary or that it makes me super smart or that I know everything about it. It just is helpful to know when those things come up. It helps to be aware of politics enough to be able to counter guys like that, or at least to understand when they're present. Those are kind of the main archetypes of weird guys. Like I said, they can overlap. They can be a little. They can be a lot. They can do lots of things, good and bad, mostly bad. You're almost certainly inevitably going to pick up weirdos. It's not your fault. It just comes with the territory. I'm sorry. I really am. Like I've got it nice because my audience is pretty all right. My advice, as best as you can, if you're just starting out, try to create an atmosphere that is as unwelcome to certain types of guys as possible. If you can build an early audience that reflects your views enough, the weirdos won't have any similarly minded people to interact with, and they'll probably leave. Like with my audience, my audience has the added benefit of not being mostly cis straight white guys, but even then, very early on, I kind of hinted at certain things that I think and beliefs that I have openly in my Discord, things like that. And very quickly, people either agreed, either passively or because they knew really what I was talking about. Basically, I did my own dog whistles in the opposite direction of the ones I mentioned before. And it built up into either me kind of passively educating people on things like, for my particular example, labor rights, social issues, things like that. And eventually, most of my Discord, the most vocal parts of it, either echoed things that I said or at least like reacted positively to it enough that anyone joining my Discord now, if they tried to start talking about stuff that I would disagree with or that is even like unacceptable, they would not find anyone who agreed with them. They would not find an audience there. Most of them don't even bother talking. They just kind of show up and then leave. It's a good way of filtering out the kinds of people you don't want if the ones you do want are the ones you have at the beginning, which does require a lot of luck and a lot of social engineering. Hi, my Discord. I didn't manipulate you. You just kind of showed up and agreed with me, and that worked out well. Howdy. You don't have to tolerate every single guy who shows up. I said earlier that you kind of have to put on the customer service face, but there can be a limit, and there should be a limit to the kinds of guys you tolerate. Tolerance of certain personality quirks and traits, it's a spectrum. And if they cross a line on that spectrum, do not be afraid to block them or ban them. Your platform has your name plastered across it, even if it's your online name. You have the right, and as much as people hate to point it out, responsibility, for better or worse, to manage it. Like, I know everyone likes to think like, oh, it's not my problem if weirdos say stuff, but it becomes your problem when someone in a tweet thread says, look at this person's Discord, look at the stuff they allowed in their Discord. This guy's literally a Nazi and saying Nazi talking points in their Discord. They must accept it if they haven't blocked him yet. And it's all because you didn't even realize what the fuck he was talking about. That kind of thing. Be upfront about your opinions when you need to be, okay? There is a common misconception, and I'm openly and confidently calling it a misconception because I think we've seen it pan out and seen it fall through as a theory of how to interact online. There is a common misconception that in order to build an audience, in order to exist online, especially as a woman, that you are not allowed to have opinions. You have to be a blank slate and anyone can say whatever they want around you and you just say, oh, that's nice. You don't. I'm not saying you have to know all these issues personally and off the top of your head. I'm not saying you have to have an extensive research done into what these issues mean for you, or you don't have to have a poli-sci degree or a philosophy degree to exist online. I'm not saying any of that. But I am saying that if you're starting out early on, when there are issues that matter to you, it is better to either directly or indirectly make it clear to some degree where you lean. You're going to make and then pretty quickly lose followers who were like, oh, I just joined last week and then I found out you do this. Oh, gross. And then they leave. It's going to sting. It's going to suck. You may think, oh, I thought they were cool. It sucks. It is better to have that small burn now and build an audience that actually likes you and for the most part agrees with or at least tolerates your views than to have to worry about it down the line once you've got a bunch of Nazis and nationalists and fascists and sex pests in your fucking Discord, someone like me shows up and you start talking to me and I'm like, hey, yeah, that guy who just commented his profile picture, you know what that is, right? No, what? That's a Sonnenrad. That's a black sun. That's a Nazi thing. That guy's a Nazi. That sucks to have to deal with. It really does. Or for people like I've had that happen to me. I am trying so hard to make it clear that I don't know everything. I'm not pretending to know all there is to know about these topics. I've had people come to me and be like, hey, on the sidebar there, I noticed someone logged in and their status is set to this phrase. That's like a nationalist dog whistle in my country. Like my country adjacent to whatever country they're supporting, that's a thing. That happens. It's better to try and minimize that as much as possible by filtering out your audience. And I know that on the surface, that sounds like I'm saying you've got to cut your income. To some degree, yeah, there will be a few people's dollars who you will lose. It's a cost-benefit analysis of losing a few people who may have paid for your content versus having them destroy your life down the line because you said the wrong thing and didn't know that would set them off. You can never make that a non-zero chance of happening, no matter what you do, okay? But it helps. I don't think I have to worry about any fascists in my audience. I mean, not only have I filtered a lot, but also most of my audience are women and queer people, and fascists tend not to be in those circles by nature of the things that they believe. Like most of my audience, I doubt, are going to be Andrew Tate fans or are going to be Jordan Peterson fans. I'm not saying those guys are inherently fascist or whatever. I know everyone thinks that we overuse the word fascist, but they're kind of like, there's kind of like a pipeline from like those kinds of guys to worse kinds of guys. That's what we mean. Fascist adjacent. Nationalist guys or weird sex guys or misogynist guys. They all kind of converge at the same point at the end, which is why it's easy to just say fascist. Like, I don't have to worry about that nearly as much as a guy who makes content for predominantly women and queer people, because those people understand that their existence and their ability to live and thrive is directly threatened by ideas like those. Like, they're not going to support those ideas unless they're like self-hating or something, but not many of those people show up in my audience. So, works out. But for you, if you're appealing to a predominantly male audience, and if you need help, if you need advice, find someone who knows stuff about this if you have a worry or a concern. Or hell, I mean, honestly, if you're a content creator, you can DM me on Twitter or something and ask. I can't guarantee that I respond quickly. You can just ask. You can just post it like, hey, guys, does this look like a weirdo to you? And if you're a content creator, and be like, does this look like a weirdo to you? And I'll be like, yeah, that flag's weird. That profile picture is kind of sus. That name is the name of like an old Romanian nationalist leader, something like that. Like, I've had that happen before too. Like, yeah, try to find people though who can help navigate those issues if you can. Talk to people who you trust in private about issues you're unsure about if you feel unsure about things that people in your audience are saying or doing. At the very least, have someone who can reliably help you point out troublemakers, who can say, that's a dog whistle. The thing he's saying right there, that's a thing. He's saying the 14 words. If you don't know what that is, Google Nazi, the 14 words. They sound innocuous-ish enough on the surface, but if you know what they're meaning when they say that, it's a whole other thing. And also, as an addendum, non-guys can be weird too. I joked earlier about like not having many people like this in my audience because you kind of have to be self-hating. But women, queer people, and even other content creators can fall into categories like the ones I listed above, those archetypes. Now, if you're dealing with that, if you're dealing with someone who acts poorly or uncomfortably around you, do not invalidate the identities, beliefs, sexuality, whatever, of anyone if you need to criticize them or call them out for something. Do not. It is never acceptable to misgender or to be racist or to be homophobic, whatever. If someone is enough of a problem that they need to be directly addressed, then you've already got all the ammunition you need. They're a shit person. You don't need to talk about them in regards to their identity. That's not an issue. Your issue is with their behavior. You talk about them as a person, not a member of a group. Also, just because you're a content creator, if you get weird DMs or comments from another content creator, you are free and welcome and encouraged to block or mute weird ones. Please. If they're openly abusive or cruel, I'm saying this specifically because I'm talking mostly to female content creators, and I know what guy content creators can be like. If they're like that, if they're bad enough, then you may need to reach out to other people who have been victimized by them as well, okay? You don't have to put up with that shit alone. That's something that should not be tolerated. I'm not saying go start drama or gossip over everything, every minor, weird social faux pas. I am saying, though, that if they are being a bad person and they are hurting you or making you genuinely uncomfortable, you can block them, you can mute them, you can get rid of them out of your life. And if that doesn't work, there are almost certainly other people they've done it to as well that you can reach out to. That's a lot. This has been a lot. Oh, God. The recording says it's at an hour and 20 minutes now. That's cool. It'll probably be much shorter than that whenever I'm finished editing it. But yeah, hour and 20 minutes. So I don't know everything about this. I'm learning just as much as anyone else is. These are just kind of my thoughts. I like women who make content. Surprise, surprise. I like all people who make content. I enjoy content. I enjoy seeing cool people make cool content and enjoy what they do. And hopefully, if they're in a situation like mine, escape from shitty jobs that they hate and get to make content full time if that's an option, or at least avoid being forced to work jobs that they hate because they have a backup or they have a supplemental income. I want people to be safe. I don't want people to get fucked over by doing this online. I've talked to people and heard about people who have been horrifically fucked up because they didn't know things or they didn't realize certain people were the way that they are or whatever. And I hate that. This little, rant I've given isn't meant to be the end all be all of everything you need to know to be a content creator as a woman. I don't want to sound like I know everything. I don't. These are just some of the things that I've heard about and the things that I've seen in these communities. I just want people to be safe out there, and I want people to be able to make the content that they want without worrying about getting harassed or doxxed or whatever the hell. And I want content consumers to consume content healthily and responsibly and not in a weird way. Because this isn't on you as a content creator if people are weird toward you. Because if it were, there would only be a handful of content creators who have armies of weirdos in their audience, but that isn't the case. That's just a general societal vibe we've got, that we just keep creating guys like this. Yeah, guys, be normal. Figure out how to interact with women online in a healthy and safe way. Don't be freaks. Don't be misogynist. Don't be fascist, whatever the fuck. Don't be normal. Be cool. Be chill. I've met tons of chill, cool guys in audiences like this. I've met a ton of freaks too, but I've met chill, cool guys. I just want everyone to stay safe out there and have a good time. And I want to see more good content. God damn it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Hopefully I'll get to make more of these. In the future, I really want to try and figure out, I want to kind of do like guest style, like interview style things with this podcast, hopefully. And also do things with it more frequently, because the last time I posted on this was like a month ago. Actually, a month and a half. Jesus Christ, it's been too long. Anyway, I hope you all are having a wonderful day, night, whenever, time zone. I hope to make more content on this platform as well as my other one. Follow me on Twitter at Whisper Audio. I'm pretty much at Whisper Audio on pretty much every platform. My main YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on another platform, I think my YouTube handle for this channel is at Whisper Alt. I'll put a link to it in the description of the podcast episode. If you like my content, got Patreon for exclusive bonus content, and got Twitch. I got all that. I'll put links in the description. Thanks for listening if you made it this far. I hope this has been enjoyable or fun, or at least something to put on in the background while you wash dishes or clean house. And I'll see you around. Bye!
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!